primarily speaks to sales professionals.
Oh, all right.
Sorry, Derek primarily speaks to sales professionals, but his message can transverse into keynoting. He's preparing for January's showcase. This is fun. Read handwriting. With over 25 years of sales experience, Derek has woven every slip, trip, and failure into sales success for himself and many of his colleagues. Presently, D. Reed and Associates delivers sales training and coaching across the country, still slipping and tripping and finding a way to make every endeavor a success. Please welcome Derek Reed.
Everybody stand up. Stand up. I want you to take your hands and reach as high as you can over your head. And I want you to bring them down like this. Just bring them down. There you go. Okay, that's good. Sit down. I had you do that. That's my little routine every morning. It didn't just come about, really in a fashion where I didn't have a plan to it. When I was young, my dad took me to this basketball tryout that I really, really wanted to make. I wanted to be on this team so bad. I could just feel it. I was 5 feet 2 inches tall. This was an elite basketball team. And I don't know the word to use other than I stunk. I was terrible. So I remember going to the tryout and I was terrible. I came home and mothers, being as mothers are, she said, "How did it go?" And I explained to her, "Well, I was the shortest one there, Mom." And my dad sat there and he listened and my mom said, "Well, you know what? All you've got to do is grow. And to grow, all you got to do is stretch." And my dad got up and walked out of the room and said, "And pray." So every day I'd get up and I'd have to stretch and pray. Sooner or later, I grew. It worked. Isn't it funny how the things that we hear in our youth and the little acts that we come about, like we pick up from our parents, they become such an important part of every day of our life. They creep back in when you're not thinking about it. I mean, think about it. I mean, just the little words that your parents said to you or your friends even say to this day, they have an impact on us as we speak every day. Every action we take on. I remember growing up also, I had an uncle, Nate, who'd come to every holiday event and say, "Hey, I'm going to take you fishing next week. I'm going to take you fishing next week." And I'd get ready. The next week, my mom would say, "Well, what are you getting ready to do?" I said, "Uncle Nate's coming, I'm going fishing." Uncle Nate didn't show up. My dad, being the dad that he was, he had a nice thing to say about it. He said, "Son, once a pancake, always a pancake." I didn't understand that. That's the other thing about these little messages. They don't make any sense to us when we first hear them, because usually we hear them at the absolute bottom. Things are going wrong. Something happened bad, and somebody's always got a quip to give you that is supposed to help. A couple months ago, my business partner decided to disappear for 2 months. And we were in the midst of some very heady negotiations. When he disappeared, all of a sudden, a thought came back into my mind. Once a pancake, always a pancake. We're not partners anymore. I was a student, as a young student in school. I could never sit still. I had to move around. I was always talking in class. I was always getting in trouble. And well, Grandmama had a name for it. It was fidgeting. One day I got called, the teacher called my grandmother and had her come up to school. My grandmother came up to school and the teacher was trying to be proper and said, "Well, Derek has a problem staying in his seat. And we're having an issue sometimes with him kind of involving other kids in things that they don't need to be involved in." My grandmother, being the direct person she was, "He's fidgety and he talks too much." Yes, that was the case. So grandmother took me home. She sat down and she said to me, "Son, I want you to understand something. At one time or another, you're either doing one or two things. You're either teaching, because you're the teacher, or you're learning, because you're the student. Whatsoever you decide to do, and she said it just like that, whatsoever you decide to do, you make sure that you're the best at that. Do you understand me? Yes. Then she said a jigsaw puzzle in front of me. And she said, now I want you to sit here and you do this jigsaw puzzle. I looked down and I said, Grandma, it's 500 pieces here. She says, we're going to show you the process. So first thing she does is she shows me the picture on the box. And she says, you see this picture? This is what we're after. She says, now, she takes the box, empties it. She says, let's spread these pieces out. And all these pieces, there are only 4 corners. You can count on there only being 4 corner pieces here. So let's find those 4 corner pieces. Then she says, now let's find the edge pieces. We find the edge pieces. And she says, okay, we put this edge around this puzzle, and we have our frame. Now all of these other pieces, there's something magical about them. They all interlock here. All you got to do is look at the color and look at the shape and figure out which one goes where. Okay, Grandma? Okay. I said, Grandma, how much time is this going to take? She said, don't worry about that. You just get out. A couple weeks ago, I was doing a jigsaw puzzle. I sat down and I looked at the puzzle, and I've got so many things on my mind to showcase next month. I mean, just things just going through my head. And I started thinking about that jigsaw puzzle. First thing she told me is, there are 4 pieces on the corners. 4 pieces. You can count on there being those 4 pieces. It's as if, with all that I have to do, there's only a few things I can count on them, and they're all inside of me. It might be diligence. It might be honesty. It might be my work ethic. It might be just the fact that I want to succeed. Those are my corner pieces. They're not going anywhere. Then you got those edges. And those edges really represented the resources that you had in front of you. Those resources could be the people that you know. They could be the things that you know about this business or where you know to get the information. But guess what? Once you've got that framework, the picture is in reach. It's in reach. You can get there. And every piece that's left becomes a piece of the opportunity. Every time you pick one up, you've got a chance to put it in the right place. Now you remember I started out and I said, how long, when I was talking about to Grandma, I said, how long is this going to take? Another friend of mine a couple of weeks ago was explaining to me that he had had a conversation with his 16-year-old son. And he was trying to tell his son, look, I know that you had a failure here in school, but let me give you the equation for how to get things done. He said, success equals effort over time. Think about that for a minute. Success equals effort over time. So that's to say that if I already know what my success is supposed to be, and I know when I want to achieve it, then now the only variable is how much effort are you willing to put with it? I kind of internalized that, and I said, wow, does that not apply to everything that I do? Does that not apply? So I asked him, I said, can I use that? And he said, yeah, my son's 16. He won't remember this till he's 25 anyway. Funny how a jigsaw puzzle framed everything that I needed to know in order to handle every obstacle that I might have in front of me. I start with the corners, the things that I bring to the table, and I then identify my resources, and then I just look for opportunities in the midst. Thank you very much.
That was 9:12, by the way.
What you got, Jean? Awesome. Awesome. I want to know, are you often speaking with personal stories like that? That's kind of a connection of things I heard, how I applied them to my life. Is that the kind of speech you do? Yeah. Or this is just a very special thing, and normally you're doing sales training.
Actually, I weave stories in sales training, and I'm trying to amass more of the stories and get them down So that was one of the
Okay,
purposes. for
so
that.
in a sales training class, someone's learning about closing or the sales funnel or
Sure.
something, which is kind of technical, and you're gonna punctuate your work with a little jigsaw puzzle story
I could take that entire jigsaw
and just stick
and
it in
build
there.
it around sales.
Okay, so we're hearing today a little bit of those stories strung together, as
Yes.
if you had been hired to do a personality keynote.
This is,
So
yes,
everyone thinks he's
correct.
great, and they're gonna hear from Bernard, okay. So, I loved slip, trip, and failure in your intro. I know that you did the intro, but slip, trip, and failure, that's a wonderful little triad part of your setup. So if there's a way to bring in slip, trip, and failure in your speech again,
Mhm.
that's a pretty good connection to
Okay.
make. I love the stretch and pray. I love doing it. The only thing I didn't love about it was you had a little bit of a throwaway sentence. You had us do it, and you said, oh, you know, we did this, there's a reason, don't worry, it wasn't really wasted time. You know, don't apologize for what you just did, just own that you did it, and then start talking, and you had a great callback when you actually did stretch and pray. I noticed a few times when you would give, you're reminiscing about two people that talk to you, or two people that talk to each other, such as mom and dad. You'll say, I remember this. When you have several people in your story, and they're gonna be speaking to each other,
Give
We're
them
giving
the
you-
legs.
what, turn this way for this one?
Yeah.
You already know that.
Stuff I need to do, thank you though, I
Make
didn't
sure
mean to
that
jump
they're
on it.
distinct.
Okay.
I thought your gestures are incredibly natural, very expressive facial expressions. You didn't try it, but I would say your glasses are also a tool.
Mhm.
So if there is a way, this is for any of us that wear glasses, if there's a way to make your point by taking your glasses off and shaking them at this or something, your glasses can actually be a little bit of part of your gesture as well. Your feet are making noises on the carpet. You do a lot of step together, and that's not your fault, you've got a lot of energy, but it can be distracting. So depending on where you speak and what shoes you choose to wear, you may have to lift your feet a little bit.
Is it this sound?
I'm shuffling.
Okay.
Well, it depends on and of course, women's heels can make a distracting sound.
That's right.
Once a pancake, always a pancake. I still don't know what that means, but I like it.
Well, think about it this way, if you're a pancake, you're not gonna turn into a biscuit.
Well, I didn't say, I really believe that, or
If you
if,
said that, it might be helpful.
Maybe then I'll add that, yeah, okay,
or, you know, and that pancake never waffles.
okay. But,
I like that.
But,
That's awesome, I love that.
Yeah. Your grandmother used the phrase, what, so never?
What's the matter?
I love that a lot. And you need to take the what so never and make that into another story somehow.
Mhm.
Like, am I gonna doubt my success? What so never? I don't know how you're gonna use it. That can be a catchphrase for you. Another part about the puzzle story, this is my opinion, we pretty much all know how to do puzzles. We all know about corner pieces, we all know about edges. So you don't need to belabor what she told you about the edges and all, because we got that.
Mhm.
The cool part was when you said, hey, they all interlock. And then you moved on into the metaphor of what are your four corner pieces, what are your resources, your edges. So speed up the explaining how to do a puzzle, because we kind of all got that.
Okay.
And unless you got an international audience that doesn't know anything about puzzles, but just speed that up a little bit. Success equals effort over time, is that a fraction? You're saying success equals effort over time, or
Yeah.
effort over timeline?
So you bring up a good point, because as you hear that entire speech, I'd be interested to know what slides might be good to incorporate, because that's what I'm gonna do the next month, work on that.
So, it was a different person that said this though, so in your story, you didn't say it.
No.
So I went to something you said, right? So it's good that you start with success equals effort over time, but I say you come up with your own little formula, you know, with your own whatsoever in there, and interlock in there, or something like that as you develop. And not that you can't say it, but as you develop your personality brand, you know, yourself, it needs to be your
I
formula.
could probably use that, because he knows.
No, but you can do better. This is
Okay.
what I think.
All right.
And then finally, and I don't know how to do it exactly, but we should connect stretch and pray with the jigsaw. So you've got stretch and pray, you've moved on, you talked about the jigsaw with the four corners and the edges, and as you come to your close, we've got to find a better way to pull back in stretch and pray, or
Yeah.
what so never, or
Yeah.
whatever your other key.
Gotcha, so in other words, bring it back on.
Circle around.
Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you very much, I appreciate it.
Great feedback.
I was thinking about the stretch and pray, that one thing you could do is say, doesn't that feel so good? It feels so good. I do it every morning, and then you could go into your history and that you brought it. It just felt like it needed to be closer together, what it was all about, from the time we did it to the time we got the story.
Okay. They think it's-
Very, very comfortable on stage.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, Steve.
Thanks for being real, yourself, like just talking to you back there, that you're just yourself up there as I was talking to you back there. So, at no point, like you made a little circle turn at a point, and I don't know if you were thinking, but it seemed like you lost
Came up
connection.
here.
Yeah, you kind of turned in a circle, and then you transitioned to another topic. I don't know if you did that deliberately, but you seemed to lose.
But do it
Nothing is
again.
delivered. Everything is
Do it
just.
again.
It lost connection with my attention when you
Really?
did that.
Okay.
Okay.
It was subtle, but I don't know. if
I'll
you
look at it,
noticed.
because
I thought, okay, good
I didn't
transition
even-
device, okay.
Yeah.
I don't even, I gotta look at that.
Who else?
Thank you.
Abby?
Derek, this is really fun to see you. I don't think I've even seen you speak, but
Try not to let
try not to let that happen, yeah. But I agree. I mean, it feels very natural to you. Like, I just love it when you're smiling and having fun up there because it feels very you. So that was pretty cool. A couple of things I thought could be improved. Towards the end, when you were talking about effort over time, you were doing this pose where your hand was kind of covering your mouth a little bit. So then it kind of made it a little mumbly, like it was hard to hear you in those portions. So watch for that. I think, yeah, definitely picking a target in terms of like what's the point in the sales context. I think that will help kind of ground everything. And overall with the stories, I thought they were relatable, they were really fun. I could totally see my parents doing similar things. I did feel like there was a lot of I in there. And so that's one thing that I really struggle with in terms of telling a story, which you will see in just a moment. But I think, you know, I am trying to take out the I as much as possible. And I think there's definitely ways to do that to help us come in the story with you. Like, do you remember when your parents just nagged on you about something, you know, and just kind of taking that out as much. And the last thing that just frankly made me a bit uncomfortable was about the business partner. If I were a client, that would make me question and kind of put that out in the air of context of like, should I be concerned about that? So I think take it out so that way they're not even worried about you, because I think I was worried about you in that moment. And I don't want to be worried about you because you're awesome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Derek, you have such fabulous charisma, such fantastic eye contact. I just want to get up there and like hug you while you're talking.
Don't do that.
I'm having so much fun because it looks like you're having fun.
I am.
And yeah, it just feels very natural and fabulous up there. And your metaphor or your analogy of the stretch and pray, the stretch and grow, is so strong. I think you could develop a whole talk around that, and you could bring it back to everything. You could even bring it back to the puzzle. You know, because if you pray, you know, you're not so sure in that moment. You're going to pray, and then you stretch.
Yeah.
You know, and that's how you grow in life. That you could really apply that. I suggest you consider taking that as your keynote bubble, so to speak. Like that is and you can even take this to spiritual groups. I see a lot of audiences wanting the message about when you're in a moment of difficulty and all you can do is pray. Know that what's happening to your soul is that you are stretching. There is that opportunity to grow. So do it, stretch, pray, grow. You make it happen for yourself. Don't just shrink back and say, I don't know how to do this, Grandma. It looks too hard. How long is this going to take? You know, like, and there's so many stories you can bring into that. I just want to say that was very moving and very touching, and I see a way to yeah, you heard me. Thanks.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
passionate.
We have a
about
couple
that. I
minutes
love it.
more,
Yep.
yes.
Mhm.
I have a couple things for you. About the four corners, and you said they might be this, they might be this, they might be this. That felt non-committal to me, and I thought that's a really important time to commit. These are my four corners. These are the ones that I internalize. This is how I work. What are they for you? What are they for you?
yeah, that's good.
You know? I think you can slow down some in general. You are so charming and you have the voice. I think it'll be fun to see you evolve because your voice is such a huge tool that you have. And so you can do
That's not what
some
my wife
different.
said.
You can do some different things with it because it's just a great gift that you have. And I think that you're just throwing these pearls out there and some of them are whizzing by because we need a breath here and there and a pause. We need to know I'm going to a new place, maybe not with the feet on the floor while we're doing it. But I think when you look back at it, you might see some spots where it can breathe a little and we can kind of resonate and think about what you just said to make sure that we've caught up with you. The other thing I would say is there are a lot of analogies and there are a lot of curly ideas. And sometimes when there are so many in just 9 minutes, I think it was about 9 minutes, it's a lot, it's a lot of, it's.
Think
it's a lot.
showcase though. Think showcase, it's
Well,
not
for
so
the
much.
showcase, where you're
Yeah.
gonna edit.
Yeah, well,
Or
and see what I'm saying is, those things might not all show up in one speech.
Right.
Ah, got it. So you're
Those might
doing
be
nuggets.
pieces
That you
that will
would
go.
put clips together.
Every time I come to Speaker Lab, if somebody says, you know, you could build a whole thing on that, I'm like, I don't wanna do anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, that's exactly right.
I love so many of the things that Jean said, like, I love the bookend idea that you started with that and you could end on that, but now that you've pointed out that this is Nikina, this is a collection of things.
It's a collection of stories and the message behind the stories. I was trying to get as much of that on tape for the.
Yeah. I see just massive, massive improvement in the tightness of the piece
It's
overall.
your fault, all of them doggone notes you gave.
Okay.
You have a second?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was just taken away by your story. I didn't hear your shoes. I didn't hear anything. I was just involved in the story. I just absolutely loved it. And you know, believe it or not, most people know here probably what is a job puzzle. But I was at an event of very high-end people, you know, business people, and 90% of them had no clue of how to build a job puzzle. And I had to help them
How to do a puzzle.
how to do a puzzle. So, you know, when
Wow.
those four corners, and I mean, I learned because I grew up doing them.
So the process is important.
Yes, it is
All right.
important.
But
Yes.
still can be compressed, but still can be compressed.
It could be.
It can be, but yeah.
I'm still working on it. Yeah, that was another one of your messages.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. I'm walking
Anybody else? We've got,
Thank
we've
you so
got
much.
30 seconds. Anybody?
30 seconds, 30
Okay.
seconds. Can you get 30
Yay!
seconds?
Could you do me a favor? I'm going to go over, but I would love